Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Spiritual Transformer. So, today I'm going to get in on the hottest topic of the internet right now. So, yeah, today I'm going to talk about the Epstein Files. So, I hope everyone will forgive me if I just jump on a bandwagon here because I don't want to miss this chance to, throw in a spiritual perspective on the Epstein Files. But at the same time, I haven't exactly rehearsed or practiced what I'm going to say either, so just going to play it by ear this time. So, what exactly does the Epstein Files have to do with spirituality? A lot actually, in the sense that everything is spiritual in some way or another. But one of the most shocking discoveries, I guess, of the files is a man's name. His name is Deepak Chopra. I think that's how you pronounce it. Deepak Chopra. And he's a very renowned spiritual teacher. In fact, back in the 2000s, he was one of the very few celebrities in the spiritual space. And yeah, I bought his books, I read it, and I'm fine with it. Good stuff. So when Deepak Chopra's name showed up on the Epstein files, it was kind of crazy for me because, well, that just means the spiritual community is not immune to whatever Jeffrey Epstein is selling. It's quite disturbing. Don't want to go into too many details here, but apparently Deepak Chopra said in one of the files, he said to Epstein, he said something like, God is a construct, but cute girls are real. Now, given the context of the files, that is a pretty despicable statement. And even in and of itself, coming from a spiritual leader, that goes against everything I personally believe about spirituality. So, yeah, so even spirituality is not immune to the Epstein files. The Epstein files just covers a lot of stuff, just about everything, and nobody's coming out of it unscathed. But one of the craziest things, for me anyway, is how I'm feeling about it. So, believe it or not, I actually, oh boy, I'm okay if nobody in the files, none of the perpetrators in the files, nobody mentioned in the files, I'm okay if none of them go to jail. That's right, I said it. I'm actually okay with the people in the files not going to jail. And that does sound really crazy even when I say about, but that's kind of how I feel. I'll get into why in a minute, but I'm not attached to them having to go to jail. But I also don't want them to get away scot-free either, because I think that's just too bad if they walk away totally unscathed. But let's just say I'm willing to have these people's deeds come back to bite them in some karmic way instead of, throwing them in jail. That said, I don't care if they go to jail either. If they pay for their crimes by spending life in jail, I'm perfectly happy with that. I'm just kind of detached about it. And maybe that makes me crazy, but it's kind of not my role to throw them in jail, because I'm not a politician, I don't work in law enforcement, so there ain't much I can do anyway. But the thing that I really want to see, more than having people thrown in jail, what I really want to see are more people waking up. So, okay, one of the themes of the Epstein files, not sure if it's hit that kind of level yet, but it seems like one of the themes of the Epstein files is it casts a light on who is running this world, let's just say. Right? There's hints of it here and there, like all the people in Epstein's file, they're movers and shakers, guys like Bill Gates, Bill Clinton, Elon Musk, and even Epstein himself, very pivotal figures, right? Even Deepak Chopra. And I can't help shake the feeling that the Epstein circle are the people running the world. Now, one of the reasons why I'm so detached is because I kind of already got the feeling of who runs this world. Ever since I was, for like decades now, I've been reading nonfiction books. And a lot of you might say, well, fiction's a lot more interesting than nonfiction. Oh, no, I disagree. Nonfiction is absolutely crazy because they're real. Nonfiction is about the world that we live in, and some of the stuff that I read in the nonfiction circles, I tend to read the more bad news kind of nonfiction. So I know about the atrocities happening with, say, our medical industry, the way our food is handled in the food industry, and our politics, and it's not pretty, but it's out there. If you read some of these books that I've read, like they're still around, you kind of get the idea that the people who are supposed to be in charge of running the world are not running the world for you and me. They're running the world for themselves. They're running the world for their own benefit, for their own wealth and their own power. Right? This is something that I've known for a very long time, and even though I can't put a name to who's running the world, I mean, a lot of these people are probably secrets or whatever. I'm not even talking about secret society. There's a lot of wealthy people, wealthy, powerful, influential people we've never even heard of. It. That's just how it is, right? We might know who's who in like the West, in America, Canada, whatever, but do we really know what's happening around the world? Like around the world, who are the people to watch for? Like I don't. I'm only familiar with the names in the files because I got a Western background. But even when I was reading these books, I kind of like after reading these books, I kind of knew that the world is being run by folks who don't exactly have our best interests at heart, and the Epstein Files throw a light to that. The files are basically saying that just because a person is a celebrity, just because a person is renowned, just because a person is high in a government office, just because they work in law enforcement, just because they have a lot of money, just because they have a lot of power, does not make them heroes, does not make them people to look up to. I don't really want to say it, but I'm tempted to say it doesn't make them like decent human beings. I guess okay, that's not too much of a stretch. The folks in the Epstein Files are not what you and I would call decent human beings. And there are a lot of these folks who are not decent human beings are quite powerful, quite wealthy. And if you remove the Epstein connection, you might actually find people who are on the outside quite distinguished, right? People who built their own like multi-million-dollar companies, or people who did some really amazing philanthropy. I'm thinking about Bill Gates, yeah, but so yeah, the Epstein Files is shedding light on who these people are, how powerful they are, how much they run the world, how much influence they have over the rest of us. And they're showing us how they're not really good people. Something I've known for decades now, but not everybody kind of knows. A lot of people still respect power, they respect wealth, they respect celebrity, and they think that people who have made it that far can't go wrong or can't do anything bad. And the files say, no way. No way. Some of the most deplorable people in the world are some of what society worship as heroes. You know, if they've got the power, they've got the money, the lifestyle, the private jets. The files say no. That's not the mark of a decent human being. Like, you can have all that and still not be a decent human being. And to me, that more than throwing all these people in jail, that to me, the opening of people's minds to the fact that what they believed in about power is totally wrong. Power does not equal humanity. To me, that is more important than throwing people in jail. To me, getting the world to wake up and start seeing things for what they are, that's more powerful to me than throwing people in jail. Because what happens when people start seeing into the truth, really? All of a sudden, the structures that we kind of worship, we kind of uphold, they start falling apart, right? If we can't trust a guy who's self-made, if we can't trust a person who's has celebrity, if we can't trust the people that society tells us we can trust, then who can we trust? And I think by asking that question, by having the old beliefs fall before our very eyes, I think that's helpful. Because now all of a sudden we get to rebuild what we think should be a decent human being. If wealth, power, money, status, celebrity does not make a decent human being, then we need to ask ourselves, what does? Who does? Personally, I like to see a different kind of person who's a hero, someone who's compassionate, someone who's loving, someone who takes power, but not for themselves, but to do good for other people. Sounds like a shonen hero, really. And I guess that's why I love anime so much, because people like that are all over anime. So yeah, I guess that's it. I'm okay if nobody there goes to jail, so long as the rest of the world sees these people for what they are, sees the way society is structured for what it is, tear it down, and build something that is much more fitting of who we are as human beings. And that's it. That's a bit of a doozy. I didn't think I would go on for this long, but here it is. So if you like the stuff, please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you next time. My name is Randy Koo. This is the Spiritual Transformer, and have a good night. Bye-bye.